Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 68th audio file in the audio cast series known as the Q News Patriot. I'm the Q News Patriot coming to you again with the Virginia Beach Patriot Group, this time with Victor Jackson, recently released from jail. My name is SG Anon. We've been following this story for a few weeks now on the Q News Patriot. Many of you will be familiar with Victor from the very first audio chat we had regarding efforts to reclaim common law jurisdiction and to reinstitute we the people into power. And those efforts were, of course, focused at a particular grand jury. On the, I believe it was the 15th, Victor, or was it the 10th of July, that we had an apprehension occur. I forget exactly when the day was, but you were attempting to address the grand jury, if my understanding is clear. Do you care to set me straight on the day, the record, and give me a window into what actually happened that day?
Yes, so this past Monday, you've got to forgive me as far as the time I've been in a place where there's no time, there's no cameras. It's for a reason. As far as the day, it was this past Monday, and horrific.
If we can start at the beginning of this entire process, it was this past Monday at the grand jury gathering. As my understanding, you were just attempting to read a statement to the members of the grand jury when you were ordered incarcerated by the judge sitting on the bench. And of course, immediately following that, the sheriff's department standing in the courtroom complied, sort of like mafia henchmen comply with their godfather. And so understanding that, what exactly happened with the attempt to read into the grand jury? I mean, was there violent rhetoric involved? Was this some sort of inflammatory statement or incitement to violence, or what occurred here?
Simply, once the grand jury was impaneled, I was stood up, as we have a right to speak to the grand jury. And, nothing more than, it is your grand jury members, it is your duty to hear us. Only takes four of you to agree to hear us. Will you agree to hear us? And before I could get out a couple of words, the judge, it almost seemed as if it were orchestrated, ushered the jury out as fast as he could while I was just speaking to the grand jury. It definitely, they did not give me any opportunity to speak to the grand jury. It was controlled by the judicial system. So,
And what occurred after those events?
so it's immediately when it happened, it was almost like they had officers, sitting there ready. They had the deputies ready. They immediately came over. The judge screamed out contempt of court as soon as all I was doing was speaking to the grand jury. Contempt of court, 10 days, and I'm making statements to speak to the grand jury, speaking to the grand jury, and at which point, the deputies grabbing and tussling to get to me and other members, of our party that were just, we were just there to address the grand jury. That's it. I was immediately grabbed from the back and tussled as like I said, I just simply was speaking to the grand jury. This wasn't speaking to the judge. It wasn't speaking. It wasn't. There was no violence. We were just speaking. I was speaking. At which point I was grabbed by the deputy, and they shoved me out of the courtroom, and then multiple deputies put their hands on me, and they were grabbing me by my waist and ripping my pants, up in my, in a very uncomfortable way. They shoved me down the hallway. They tried to run me into another courtroom to keep me quiet, because at which point I was just speaking out that we have a right to speak to the grand jury. This is against my constitutional rights. Please take your hands off of me. Please, you guys are hurting me. You guys are roughing me up. They took me into another courtroom. They realized there was people in there. They didn't want anybody. They were trying to usher me to somewhere where they could keep me quiet. Excuse me. They reliving it. It's just what an experience. They shoved me into an elevator, ushered me down a hallway, shoved me into an elevator, and upon the elevator reaching its destination, grabbed me in a sick manner and ripped me across and did this to my pants. My pants hit the floor.
Remarkable.
They hit the floor.
Are those jeans?
No, these are a cross between jeans and dress pants. Pretty tough pants, you would think.
The fabric looks strong.
Yeah, strong, very strong fabric. I'm sorry. It's this would be the first time that I've spoken on this, and it's just given me a little bit of anxiety to even speak on it.
Please take all the time you need, sir.
Traumatic experience. My heart is beating thinking about it. I asked them for privacy, at which point I had a female deputy in front of me, and the deputy moved to say, "You shouldn't have spoke out in the courtroom. You're in our hands now," while I stood there in my boxers. Again, over and over, I asked for some privacy. I said, "There is a lady in this elevator, and I would like some privacy. My privates are showing." At which point there was a gentleman that stood in between the lady deputy as well as myself. At which no one at that time, no one tried to help me pull my pants up. I couldn't do a thing as they had me handcuffed, and multiple officers had their hands on me.
So what occurred from there, Victor, if we could? And I can tell that it is extremely disconcerting to recount, and I fully appreciate and I acknowledge that on this program, and I thank you for it, quite frankly, because the message is so important, I think, to we the people to understand what's going on right in our own backyards, right in our own communities. Very violative of just our basic rights, I think, as human beings, and really the decency that exists between we the people when we're not having our jar shaken by some sort of external force. On the other side of this courthouse business, my understanding is that you were actually incarcerated. Do you care to give us a bit of an overview on that process and experience? And again, if you need to take a moment, or if there's an area that you don't feel comfortable going on air, please do so.
Yes. So if I don't speak on this, it's silence. That's why there's no cameras allowed in the courtroom. That's why they don't allow you to have cameras. So even with as difficult and as exposing as just tough of experience as it was, I feel much better knowing that this is out there. So I will speak on it. It continues. From there, they ushered me down a hallway, grabbing me by my waist, ripping my pants up in between my crotch, and I was asking them the entire time, "Please, this hurts. You're hurting me. You're hurting me. My privates. You're hurting me. This hurts." They did not care. They roughed me up worse. They carried me and carried me and carried me. It seemed like the hallway would never end. shoved me up against the wall. I can't tell you. I may have been 4 or 5. I couldn't tell you how many, but it was enough of them, and it was not called for. I simply spoke out to the grand jury as our Constitution allows, and this was the consequences. So we get down the hallway, they turn the corner, they take me into this cell, and they pile on me. I've got one guy with his hands on my throat. I was telling him I can't breathe over and over. I can't breathe. Why are you on? Get off of me as best as I could. There was my head was banged against the concrete floor, against the concrete bench that was in front of me. It was uncalled for. There was no need for this. There was no reason. At no time did I pose a threat to 4 or 5 officers. I'm just a 5'4" individual that was speaking for his constitutional rights. That's it. This must have lasted a couple of minutes that they were on top of me in this room, restricting my breathing, shoving me around, ripping my arms around. I know I suffered a concussion. This ended with them, I had my blazer on. This ended with them telling me to put my left arm, put your left arm on the ground, put your left arm on the ground. After they pulled the handcuffs off of me, I mean, what could I do with multiple heavy people on top of me, on my head, on my legs, on my arms? I mean,
This was personal.
yes, it's not right. Not right. Not right. You don't do this to people. You don't do this. You do not do this. This is what clearly goes on behind closed doors. He got off my left arm, and I hear him go one. I could hear one person run off to my left. I heard another run off to my left. They said, "All right." Well, I heard one person scream out, "We're gonna grab the right arm, and you go forward, or you stay still." All along, I'm wondering, what did I do? What did I do for this? What is this? What is going on? Where am I at? What just happened? Why is there blood on my arm? Why is there blood on my shirt? Am I bleeding from my ear? Where is this blood coming from? What's going on? They slammed the door shut. Man, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I've never experienced such a thing in almost 43 years. I'll be 43 in September. It's the most horrific experience that I've ever had.
Well, as you're recounting this story, it's not dissimilar from sounding like you were literally mugged on a retaliatory hit ordered by a mafia boss on a street corner. These are the types of things that the great mobster movies were made sort of predicated off of, and yet the behavior is, it's almost like the storyline is interchangeable, but the players remain the same. With that being said, Victor, what happened after that? You spent a number of days incarcerated for this. You spent a number of days completely restricted from all of your basic fundamental human rights. And for what? For, I think you said at the beginning of this program, what amounted to a total of 2 or 3 sentences. If they're that threatened by that, something must seriously be, out of whack here. So, without, again, with respect to where you're comfortable going, what occurred on the other side of these events from where we've left off?
So after they slammed the door, I, I knew that I needed medical attention. Okay, there's blood. My head just got banged around. Uh, you know, my breathing was restricted. I was very concerned. I needed medical attention. So through the door, I asked to seek medical attention. I need medical attention. Can you please get me a doctor? I need a doctor. At which time there was a nurse showed up, and there's an entourage of these deputies in front of this nurse. And my anxiety was heightened, obviously, she she never came in to look at me. She looked at me from the outside and said, "You're okay. You're okay. Nothing's wrong with you." She
So to
never
be
came.
clear, I just want to make sure that I understand that, because that's a heck of a statement that you've just made. So we have a need for medical attention, a medical professional within eyesight, and
Yes.
a
Yes.
palpable exam did not occur.
No, no, there's blood, clear blood on my right arm. Uh, blood. Uh,
Remarkable.
they know there was a concussion. I remember them saying, I could hear them screaming, "Watch his head, watch his head." And no, never came inside and gave me medical attention. So they left me in that room for about an hour, hour and a half. I don't know exactly how long. I'm just guessing because there's no clocks, there's no people, there's nothing. There was guards walking back and forth. I would assume every 20, 30 minutes. These are assumptions again. Um, a guard, and I asked them for medical attention. They said, "You've already seen one with that attitude. She's already seen you." Never came back. She never came in. She never saw me. Um, might have been an hour and a half. They finally took me out of that cell, and they took me into, I would assume, what would be like a booking area, and took me into a room right next to where this medical professional was. There was a glass separating us again. She never came on the other side of the glass to look at me. They had me handcuffed, so there was no reason she couldn't have if they wanted to say that I was a threat. All 5'4" of me, who clearly was not a threat. I explained to her that I was worried that I had a concussion and that there's blood, and that I assumed the blood may have come from inside my ear. I had no other clue where this blood would have came from because there was no cuts. Um, at which point she began to fire off a million questions at me. I explained to her, "Ma'am, I am pretty confused as to what is going on right now." And at which point she says, "Oh, you're not going to answer my questions," with an attitude. And then asked me, was I suicidal? No, no, I'm not suicidal. She took my blood pressure. She told me my blood pressure was fine through a window. I could hear her call the doctor, hear her talk to the doctor saying nothing's wrong with him. He says he wants to talk to a doctor. Nothing's wrong with him. And they got off the phone. And at that point, 3 deputies came in and they put me in a wheelchair because they said they didn't want me to have to worry about holding my pants up, me holding my pants up that they just ripped off of me as they ushered me down the hall.
It's like a Batman movie.
It continues. It continues. Yes, I unreal. They 3 or 4 of them again usher me into a room. They stand me up. My pants hit the floor because I'm handcuffed. My pants are ripped again. My privates are exposed. They tell me to take my underwear off. I ask them for what? I feel like at this point I've been violated enough. Why do you want me to take my underwear off? You better take your underwear off right now. They screamed at me. They made me lay down. They ripped my underwear off of me. They left me laying on a mat with no clothes on. Ran out the room, shut the door. Shut the door. Left me in a cell, maybe 6x4, 6x5, with a mat, a onesie, no cup, no water, and a toilet. Unbelievable.
If I may, Victor, I want to acknowledge for the audience out there that these events are 5 days old at this point. This is a brand new occurrence that's occurred out there in Virginia Beach and speaks to the nature of the infiltration that is not isolated in this particular county to this particular courthouse or to this particular locality. We're dealing with an infiltration of individuals of this flavor and type nationwide, and it is time that we acknowledge this with one another. And with that, Victor, please continue.
Yes. At which point, I gathered myself, still confused. Just remember, I've been slammed around. I know I suffered a concussion. I'm an athlete. Concussions. I've been around them. I know the severity of having some medical attention. I still want to seek medical attention. This is no place for me to end my life. I don't know that my brain's not swelling. I don't know. I put this onesie on to cover my privates. Stand up, walk over to the door, look around. I see 3 several rooms are just pacing back and forth, joking, laughing with each other. I see another guard sitting, playing what he's doing. Had a phone now. As I could muster up the energy after being tussled and rustled, to speak through this crack in the door over top of a fan blowing, a giant fan. Screamed out that I need medical attention. Please get me a doctor. Please get me a doctor. Please get me a doctor. They ignored me.
Now, this is all on the Monday, correct?
Yes.
So
So,
by this time we're into the middle to late evening time, I would think.
yes, 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 yes. Um, I didn't get fed anything that day. They didn't feed me one time. They didn't give me anything to drink. They had my water turned off to this water fountain that was sitting above this toilet. I found this out the next day. That's how I found out it was turned off. There was a nurse that did come by eventually, and she was there. She said to check my vitals, and I asked her why was I in this room by myself, secluded. She said, "You're in detox." I said, "I don't do drugs and I don't drink alcohol. Why am I in detox?" She said, "I can't tell you that. The nurse put you in there." This was punishment.
For those out there who are paying attention, this is called torture by another method. Please continue, sir.
This is punishment. I'm sorry for taking the breaks. This is the first time I've recounted the story. I've only been out maybe 3 hours from this place, and it continues. I will continue. I just have to take a breath.
So with respect to that, sir, if I may ask, and I don't want to poke in territory that is too painful, so please admonish me to back off if I end up in that arena. But over the coming days, were you kept in this specific cell, this detoxification cell?
Yes.
Because I would think that after a 72-hour period, that amounts to bona fide solitary confinement. And for those out there, an actual serious violation of the cruel and unusual punishment guidelines, not only in our U.S. Constitution or Constitution for the Republic, but also in international treaties, is centered around cruel and unusual punishment, and solitary confinement falls under these guidelines. So if you could, Mr. Jackson, can you describe to us the next few days beyond the Monday events?
Yes. So, say Tuesday, wake up, no pillow, a blanket, bright lights, no water, no food. I wake up, still in the same place, solitary. I had another nurse come by to check my vitals, and at which time I asked again, why am I in this room by myself? No one knows where I'm at. I need to contact people. I need, why am I here? What is going on? Same thing. I'm given the same thing. You're in detox. They kept me there, and they kept me there until that evening. Late, 11, 12 o'clock at night, almost 2 solid days. Almost 2 solid days, I was kept in that position before they moved me to, I guess, what you would call general population, where they had me sleeping on the floor next to a toilet. With urine. With urine. Odors. I was 5 feet from a urinal that two other gentlemen shared this 5 by maybe 7 cell. One of them deaf. I would imagine that couldn't have been right. He had to step over top of me coming out of his bunk to urinate within 2 feet of me and defecate. Unbelievable. I wish this discipline knew one. I wouldn't. No one should be treated like this. As far as I know, you treated an animal like this in my presence, I would call the law. You didn't feed in any animal. I don't care if it was a cow in a pasture. Any animal should not be treated like this. Certainly not a human. When the food came around, it was my dog. Whaler does not eat. I don't know a dog that eats the food that they feed you like this. My dog wouldn't be the one. He's spoiled. He eats what I eat. But I don't know even abused animals that eat the food that they fed us in this place. Over the course of the days, I watched men. I couldn't eat it. Days. I would try to eat as my body needed energy. And out of the 3 meals, I maybe ate the bread, and they had a piece of bologna, and they would feed you bread and bologna and for dinner. And for lunch, you would get a soup slop mix. I don't know what was in it. I couldn't tell you. It's sad that many of the people that were there, they were so hungry that I don't eat the ends of my bread. They ate the ends of my bread. Not a single time that I ate the center of the bread did a single piece of my bread go bad. Grown men eating after me. The first time I went to take this tray up, I had a guy say, "You're not going to finish that." And I mean food, corn. There was corn that I'd half eaten out of. And, for a man to take your tray after you have ate off of it just tells you how hungry these people are. The gentleman that I shared the room with, one of the two, told me he was 225 when he went in there. And 6 months later, he's lost 50 pounds. And he is one of the gentlemen. There was 3 people vying for my corners of my bread. 3 people. 3 people. Crumbs. Whatever you don't eat when you go to walk out and walk your food. He didn't need it. Somebody else was snatching it. This is not right. This is not American. And we the people deserve better. No one, no animal deserves to be treated the way they're treating humans. Certainly no human as well deserves to be treated the way they're treating people on a daily basis. They were bunked up 3 to a room all over. Every cell, overcrowded. The last day, they fed us breakfast or lunch. Breakfast comes at 4. Lunch comes at 10 a.m. They fed us dinner at 10 p.m. last night. I didn't know if I was going to eat last night. I've never seen anything like this before, and God forbid I ever see this again. God forbid. No one in any country, in anywhere in this world, deserves to be treated like I and the rest of these people in this facility were treated. You notice I didn't say inmates because clearly I was just speaking on the Constitution. I spoke with people in there. I had one gentleman I spoke with. He said he's having a hard time with his life. And his girlfriend called the police because he had threatened to kill himself. They came into his home. They took his weapon that he was going to kill himself with, and they locked him up. This gentleman said they treated him like he was a criminal. This gentleman, they charged him with crimes. And from the consensus of the inmates, they make the inmates sit in there and sweat until they agree to a plea deal. Until they
Incredible.
get plea deals. Horrific. I pray that we gain control of this sick animal. It's like a herd of hungry.
Hyenas
Yes.
cackling all of the way to the gate.
Yes.
Victor, I have to say, for those out there in my audience, and certainly on behalf of myself, I thank you for the price that you paid for speaking out on behalf of we the people. Here at Q News Patriot, we honor that, and I honor you. I'll continue to follow this story along with you. I'm running up against a hard stop on this end, but in closing, for those Patriots out there that would like to get in touch, where can they reach out, and how would you prefer them to try and communicate?
So we've got this poster behind me. you can reach us. Now, can you see this, SG?
Courtofpublicawakening.org.
Yes. So this is where you can go in here. And if you know of anyone that has experienced abuse at the hands of the courts, get in touch with us. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Mr. Jackson, I apologize. On that last segment, we had a small audio interruption on this end. For those who have experienced abuse at the hands of the court and those acting on behalf of this mafia, and then we lost the audio footage, or the audio feed, do you care to recover that just for us?
Yes, yes. They can go to this site here and they can account their story. And we together, we the people, can come together and make sure that this does not continue in our country behind closed doors.
Amen, my friend. All out into the light, as it were. They will never again put that genie back in the sacred and sacrosanct bottle that is we the people here in the world. Mr. Jackson, thank you so very much for joining me. I assure you that I will be in touch and following this here at Q News Patriot. And for the audience out there, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and learned a lot. I certainly was humbled with my perspective. God bless everyone. I'll be back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.